By 1962, the Jewish state was no longer on the brink of economic collapse or civil war. The 1956 Sinai Campaign, Israel's second major war, convinced the international community, including the United States, that the fledgling country was no passing phenomenon. Until that war, many nations had assumed it would survive a few years and then collapse. Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula and the Gaza Strip from Egypt, and though it soon returned them as a result of American pressure, the crisis secured Israel's freedom to navigate through the Straits of Tiran, and more important, changed not only the world's view of Israel, but Israelis' perceptions of themselves. The Jewish state was coming of age. The Kadesh Campaign, as the 1956 war was known, revealed that Ben-Gurion had absorbed more than a bit of Jabotinsky's Iron Wall doctrine. Israel had struck preemptively, and Ben-Gurion had come to understand that, just as Jabotinsky had said, Egypt would understand nothing but force. Nevertheless, stark differences remained between Ben-Gurion's worldview and that of Begin, and nothing revealed them as much as the little-known crisis that gripped the country in 1962. Israel's Declaration of Independence asserted that a constitution shall be adopted by the elected Constituent Assembly not later than the 1st of October 1948. But October 1948 came and went with no constitution ratified, and as the dust from the War of Independence settled, it became clear that Ben-Gurion had little intention of expending the political capital that would be needed to get one passed. Rejecting the American model that positioned a constitution as a central pillar of democracy, he advocated for the signing of basic laws, which would, one day, collectively make up the basis of a constitution. In large measure, Ben-Gurion was hoping to avoid a showdown with the religious parties. He understood that defining the limits of the Jewish religion in a newly founded Jewish state would unleash political battles with which he simply could not contend at that point. He preferred to acquiesce to the agreed-upon status quo, in which the Sabbath would be honored in public spaces, food served by government offices and the army would be kosher, and Haredi men would not be drafted into the army, without defining the principles upon which the status quo was based. That unspoken acquiescence meant that he had to dodge the issue of the Constitution. Naturally, Begin objected to Ben-Gurion's tacit decision not to move a constitution forward. Begin was, of course, loath to forego an opportunity to take a shot at what he saw as Ben-Gurion's limitless quest for power. Without mentioning Ben-Gurion explicitly, he said in a July 1956 Knesset speech, "The day will come when a government elected by our people will fulfill the first promise made to the people on the establishment of the state, namely, to elect a founding assembly whose chief function, in any country on earth, is to provide the people with a constitution and issue legislative guarantees of civil liberties and national liberty, for the nation will then be free, above all, free of fear, free of hunger, free of the fear of starvation. That day will come." But Begin the lawyer and the man committed to the rule of law also disagreed with Ben-Gurion as a matter of principle. He argued that without a constitution, the power of the majority party, Ben-Gurion's in this case, would go unchecked, and as a result, the failure to adopt a constitution would also endanger individual and minority rights. "We have learned," he said in 1952, "that an elected parliamentary majority can be an instrument in the hands of a group of rulers and act as camouflage for their tyranny. Therefore, the nation must, if it chooses freedom, determine its rights, in order that the majority thereof that serves the regime more than it oversees it should not negate these rights." He held these views consistently for the duration of his career. In a February 1962 Knesset debate regarding the repeal of the emergency regulations that had been instated shortly after independence, he again invoked the importance of defending the rights of Israel's Arabs. "Some say that it is impossible for us to provide full equal rights to Arab citizens of the state because they do not fulfill full equal obligations. But this is a strange claim. True, we decided not to obligate Arab residents, as distinguished from the Druze, to perform military service, but we decided this out of our own free will, and I believe that the moral reason for it is valid. Should war break out, we would not want one Arab citizen to face the harsh human test that our own people had experienced for generations. We believe that in the Jewish state there must be and will be equal rights for all its citizens, irrespective of religion, nation, or origin." Begin's stance on the Constitution and its related issues came as a surprise to many, especially in the Mapai camp, who had been taught to see him as nothing more than a fascist. Even Haaretz paid Begin a grudging compliment when it opined, "It is strange to see how a political movement that by its very nature usually tends to strengthen the executive force is asking here to represent pure liberalism." But Begin did not push the Constitution as feverishly as one might have expected. He, too, was conflicted about the battle that would emerge with the religious parties. As a lover of the Jewish tradition and a man committed to the rule of law, he was probably himself somewhat conflicted on what the principles ought to be, and did not want to fight the battles that would undoubtedly have emerged. Internal Herut politics were also at play.